For 30 years, Johnny Carson dominated late-night television as never before. From 1962 until his retirement in 1992, he welcomed millions of Americans into the living rooms of their homes each weeknight with a combination of equal parts charm, sarcasm, and razor-sharp professionalism. The Tonight Show starring Johnny Carson was not a mere talk show, it was a cultural institution. And whereas Carson was famous for his calm demeanor, the timing master who could walk through any cringeworthy conversation with a well-timed one-liner, live television is more of a gamble. Even Carson's unflappable self sometimes found itself caught up in frenzied, outrageous, or side-splittingly unplanned moments that no one would have foreseen. Behind the meticulously smooth facade of the king of late night was a man who occasionally laughed so hard he wept, who occasionally displayed unexpected vulnerability, and who very occasionally utterly lost command of his own program. These are the 16 most crazy, improvised, and unforgettable moments of Carson's 30-year reign. Moments when television's most scripted host became the hostage of circumstance, his guests, or his own feelings. If this kind of story touches your heart, if you're someone who cares about truth, responsibility, and speaking up for the voiceless, please like this video, subscribe to our channel, and share it with someone who should hear it. Let's get started. 1. Ed Ames' Tomahawk disaster, 1965. It began as a routine demonstration. Actor Ed Ames, who played the role of Mingo on Daniel Boone, appeared on the program to instruct Carson on the art of throwing a tomahawk. The producers rolled out a wooden silhouette of a cowboy for a target. Ames hurled it with great force, and to the surprise of all, it stuck firmly in the crotch. The studio erupted in laughter. But it wasn't the accident alone, it was Carson's response that became historic. He lost it entirely, duplicated over, laughing so hard he was crying, unable to speak for almost 3 minutes, an eternity on live television. When he finally regained his breath, he uttered the immortal one-liner, "I didn't even know you were Jewish." That one quip sealed the moment as the one of television history. What made it enchanting was Carson's genuineness, the professional facade lowered, and America got to see a host truly flummoxed by the ridiculousness of live television. 2. Don Rickles breaks Carson's cigarette box, 1973. Carson had a wooden cigarette box on his desk, one of his most intimate props. When guest host Don Rickles broke it by accident, Carson likely assumed it was no big deal. But Carson did not forget. One evening, when Rickles was filming his sitcom CPO Sharkey on an adjacent NBC soundstage, Carson burst onto set, live cameras and all, to ambush him. Carson interrupted mid-scene, shouting, "You broke my cigarette box." Rickles, dressed in full Navy uniform, appeared shocked. The sitcom crowd was unaware of what was going on. The instant exposed the genuine friendship beneath Carson's pretended ire. He never broke format, but for Rickles, he made a special exception. Their exchange that evening is one of the greatest spontaneous and laugh-filled interruptions in late-night history. 3. Bette Midler makes Carson cry, 1992. For 30 years, Carson had been the cool, controlled ringmaster. But during his final week, Bette Midler broke that armor. After bantering and joking, she stopped and sang, "One for my baby and one more for the road," directly to him. Carson's eyes welled up with tears. The crowd was silent. It was the most uncharacteristic of uncharacteristic moments. Johnny Carson, open, bare, and leaving behind the program that had been his life. When she concluded, he kissed her hand and quietly said, "I can't top that." For a man who had built a career shunning sentiment, it was the perfect goodbye. 4. Monkey climbs on Carson's head, 1979. Carson regularly had animal professionals such as Joan Embry or Joan Steele on her show, but animals don't work from scripts. On one notorious evening, a Capuchin monkey jumped from its handler and landed solidly on Carson's carefully coiffed hair. Instead of panicking, Johnny froze with that famous deadpan look as the monkey tugged at his hair, like it was a playground. Finally, when it climbed down, Carson stared into the camera and muttered, "And this, ladies and gentlemen, is why I prefer cats." The audience roared. It was quintessential Carson, finding the perfect line in a moment of total chaos. 5. Steve Martin's absurdist magic 1980. Before he became a film star, Steve Martin was revolutionizing comedy. On Carson's show, he first performed his Great Flydini bit, pulling eggs, shakers of salt, and even a phone out of his pants zipper. Carson began playing it straight, but soon fell over in laughter. For once, Johnny wasn't calling the shots. He was just another member of the audience amazed by Martin's surreal brilliance. 6. Robin Williams Goes Rogue, early 1980s. If Ed Ames could get Carson laughing uncontrollably, Robin Williams made him cave in totally. Williams destroyed interviews, vaulting out of his chair, doing accents, transforming Carson's desk into a stage. Producers freaked, but Johnny shooed them away. Leaning back, wiping away tears of laughter, he let Robin go wild. Trying to interview Robin, Carson once described the experience, is like trying to catch lightning in a bottle. 7. Don Rickles roasts Frank Sinatra, 1976. Frank Sinatra was the ghost of Hollywood. Powerful, volatile, untouchable. But Rickles just didn't care. Seated beside him on Carson's couch, he began a roast. This guy is overrated. The studio became rigid. Carson appeared anxious. Then Rickles topped it with, "Frank, can I get a lift home?" Sinatra erupted into real laughter. Johnny released a sigh of relief, and the crowd roared. It was a risky, electric moment. The night Rickles proved even Sinatra could be roasted. 8. Dolly Parton and the infamous comment, 1977. And here's the one that shocked America. Dolly Parton sat on the couch in a low-cut dress. After some playful banter, Carson looked at her and said, "I'd give a year of my life to peek under that blouse." The crowd gasped, then nervously laughed. Dolly, being the pro that she was, laughed and smoothed it over. But the aftermath was huge. NBC got more mail about that bit than nearly anything else during Carson's entire career. Some commended him for taking a risk. Others excoriated it as tacky. Dolly herself later declared she wasn't offended. But for Johnny, it was one of the few times his famously good instincts let him down. 9. Bob Hope bombs, 1980s. Bob Hope was a legend, but by the 1980s, his Tonight Show performances had become cringeworthy. He read jokes off of cards, reused old material, and flouted Carson's signals. Johnny was courteous on camera, but backstage he sighed, "Hope doesn't listen. He just talks." Having to endure Carson's rigged grins during those cringeworthy segments was spectacle enough, a reminder legends can overstay their welcome. 10. Jimmy Stewart's poem about his dog, 1981. In the most poignant moment in the show's history, actor Jimmy Stewart read a poem about his recently deceased dog, Bo. His shaking voice and plain words quieted the studio. When the camera went to Carson, he was crying, trying to answer. There was no joke this time, only pure human emotion. It's one of the Tonight Show's all-time greatest moments. 11. Snake escapes during animal segment, late 1970s. Joan Embry came on with a huge Burmese python. When she told him about its habits, the snake slid off the desk onto Carson. Johnny sprang out of his chair with miraculous speed, and the audience laughed hysterically. After the handlers got a hold on the snake, Carson came back, straightened his tie, and deadpanned, "Someone should check my pants." It was genuine slapstick born of genuine fear, and Carson's quick thinking converted terror into comedy gold. 12. George Carlin's censorship jab, 1983. George Carlin was renowned for pushing the envelope. In a Tonight Show visit, he got a smart piece of wordplay past NBC's censors, subtle enough to go on the air, but biting enough for Carson to pick up on. Johnny shot the camera a knowing smile and spoke in cueing, "I picked up on that." It was an unspoken understanding between two comedy greats, one subversive, the other winking in approval. 13. Dean Martin plays the drunk, 1970s. Dean Martin's drunk routine was the stuff of legend. Slurred speech, missed chairs, lost punchlines. On one Carson show, he leaned into it harder than ever, shrugging in the middle of a story. Who cares? Wasn't that funny anyway? Carson never reined Dean in, letting him play straight man to Dean's antics. The crowd loved the spontaneity, and while Dean's tipsy routine was largely an act, it energized every performance. 14. Carson's monologue interrupted by Rickles' 1980s. Carson's monologue was wholly, always rehearsed, always uninterrupted, until Don Rickles insulted him from the wings. Carson interrupted himself in mid-joke, pointed a finger at Rickles, and pulled him onto the stage ahead of time. The crowd roared. It was an unusual breach of structure, and evidence that Carson felt comfortable with Rickles enough to ruin the show. 15. Tiny Tim's Wedding on the Tonight Show, 1969. Few moments of TV history were as weird as the wedding of Tiny Tim on The Tonight Show. The ukulele-strumming oddball wed Miss Vicky in Carson's presence, 40 million viewers, and an aghast live studio audience. Carson, clearly bewildered, officiated with a combination of astonishment and glee. It was half wedding, half circus, just the sort of offbeat TV Carson privately delighted in. 16. The Final Farewell, 1992. When Carson did finally bid adieu, it wasn't with fireworks or celebrity fanfare. It was subdued. He thanked his viewers, his employees, then merely said, "I bid you a very heartfelt good night." There were no tears this time, no theatrics, only Johnny Carson, humble to the end, retiring with aplomb. Conclusion. From tomahawks to monkeys, from raunchy jokes to manly tears, Johnny Carson's 30 years on The Tonight Show provided us with moments that were ridiculous, appalling, laugh-out-loud funny, and profoundly human. These 16 crazy highlights remind us why he is still the gold standard of late-night hosts. He wasn't merely a master of control, he was also, when the moment called for it, willing to let go of control in the most unforgettable ways.